Hello, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile video. Today, we are going to be taking a look at this, my most recent deck that I've been working on, my Atlantean Mermail Fish deck. Yes, all kinds of sea creatures. Now, for a bit of a backstory here, because everybody loves to hear about that sort of thing, I was actually inspired to build this deck because I went up against a very similar deck on Master Duel. In fact, I think I even lost to it. I don't know what I was playing, probably Toons or something, but that doesn't matter. The point is, it looked like so much fun to play, and there were all these little intricacies, all these different things that the deck could do at any given time, just, you know, drawing more cards and playing more fish and bringing other fish back. There's just a lot of cool things that this deck could do, long story short. So that's why I decided to take my own take on this deck, to build something of my own, and that is what we are going to see today. So, as always, I will follow a similar format with this deck as I do with all my other deck profiles. I will go over every card in this deck in excruciating detail to leave no stone unturned. And then I will, after that, go over a few little gameplay hints, just a couple things to keep an eye out for to get you started, as you might be playing a deck similar to this one. So, let's just move this out of the way, and we are gonna dive right in. First of all, we've got our starters. So these are the cards that you want to keep an eye out for in your opening hand, because they will allow you to get started and do other things. So this right here is Neptibus, I believe his name is, the Atlantean Prince. You know, I love these quarter-century rares, but darn it if they aren't difficult to read. Yes, Neptibus, there we go. And I run this guy at 3 copies because he is absolutely vital to the functioning of this deck. So what does he do? Well, I will tell you. It's a level 1, 800 attack, 0 defense. That's not super relevant. So you can send an Atlantean monster from your deck to the graveyard, except this one, and then you add an Atlantean card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this one. And if this card is sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect, which is a line of text you'll be seeing a lot in this deck, then you can target an Atlantean monster in your graveyard, except this one, and special summon it, and you can only use each effect once per turn. So, being able to send any Atlantean monster from your deck to the graveyard is extremely relevant, and then adding another Atlantean from your deck to your hand is, again, extremely relevant. This card really does get the ball rolling, and that's, again, why we need 3 of him, because we really always want to be seeing this card if we can. Now, the other starter, this one a bit less so, but still, you can definitely do a number of cool moves as long as you can start with the Abyssrine here, the Atlantean Spirit, who, again, I am running 3 copies of. Very important card. This is small text. So, what she does, well, she is always treated as a mermail card, which is relevant, though in her name she is an Atlantean. So you can tribute this card from your hand, and Atlantean or Mermail monster from your hand or field to take a level 7 fish, sea serpent, or aqua monster from your deck, and either add it to your hand or special summon it. Oh, and that is a big one. And you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except water monsters. Well, guess what? Every card in this deck, almost, is a water monster. So that doesn't really matter. And, however, there's a second effect in here somewhere, if you can bring your eyes down to the bottom here. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, discard a card to the graveyard, and then draw 1 card. So it gets you an extra card in hand. That's not the important part here, though it's appreciated. The important thing is you can special summon a level 7 fish from your deck, which is incredible. and we will see which fish that we're gonna special summon a bit later in the video. But for now, just keep in mind 3 Abyssrines, because we, again, never really mind seeing this card in our hand. So, now that we've seen a couple Atlanteans and Mermails, how about we take a look at the rest of them in this deck? These are mostly cards that you would want to be sending to the graveyard to activate the effects of the aforementioned cards that we went over earlier. So let's start out with the Mermail Shadow Squad, level 3 with 1900 defense. I run this card at 2. I see some deck lists running this at 3, but I think that's a little excessive. 2 is fine, I think. I've never had a problem with needing more of this card. So what does it do? Well, for one thing, it's always treated as an Atlantean, so even though it's a mermail in name. But you can discard a card to the graveyard, and then water monsters you control become level 7 until the end of the turn. Okay, that's usually not important, but I guess it's something that you can do if you absolutely must. But if this card is sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect, then you can special summon a level 4 or lower Atlantean or Mermail from your deck, except one of these. And then you can't special summon from the extra deck except water monsters this turn. So if you can discard this to the graveyard to activate one of your other Mermails or Atlanteans effects, then you get a free special summon, which is awesome. So yeah, we've got 2 of these. It's just always nice to have that ability to search for stuff. And then we have the Mermail Abyss Spike, which is a level 4 with 1600 attack. This is a fish, which is relevant for later. But when this card is normal or special summoned, you can discard a water monster to the graveyard to add a level 3 water monster from your deck to your hand. So this kind of acts as like a tertiary starter monster. Like it's not as good as the others, right? But it does let you discard something, which will trigger other effects, and it does bring something else to your hand, which is nice. So having one of these on turn 1 isn't the absolute worst, though you would usually prefer to have the others. But then I guess you could always search for one of the others with this. So yeah, that's just fine. And I run this card at 2 for the same reason. I've never found that I needed 3. Then, we have the Atlantean Dragoons, a level 4 with 1800 attack, which is kind of big for a level 4. You could conceivably attack with this thing. I run it at 2 copies. Once again, 2 copies has always been fine for me. All of your level 3 or lower Sea Serpent monsters can attack directly. Alright, that's something. But if this card is sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect from anywhere, this doesn't just have to be from the hand, but then you can add a Sea Serpent monster from your deck to your hand. So again, you're just getting free value for sending this thing to the graveyard, which is nice. And then here, this one is a bit different. This is the, you know what, we're gonna choose one that we can read. This is the Mermail Abystius. So this is a level 7, 1700 attack, 2400 defense. But you can discard another water monster to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. And when special summoned this way, you can add a level 4 or lower Mermail from your deck to your hand. So it searches for something and it special summons itself, which is why I have 3 of them. Now, another reason why I have 3 is because this card here is a very easy excuse to discard things. Sometimes you have stuff in your hand that you don't really need, and I've found it very useful to have ways of getting rid of those cards. So yeah, that's why we have 3 copies of the old Abystius here. And at last we have Poseidra, the Storming Atlantean, another level 7. This one, again, this one's a bit different. 2800 attack is pretty big, actually. But while you control a monster, except this one, your opponent's monsters can't target this card for attacks. You can only use each of these following effects once per turn. You can send another water monster from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard to special summon this one from your hand, so it's another easy special summon. But when it is, let's just see, where am I? I've lost myself in the effect. Yes, when it is normal or special summoned, you can send an Atlantean or Mermail from your deck to the graveyard to target a card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. So this is also a bit of removal, which is nice. On your first turn, that's likely not going to be relevant if you're going first, but if you're going second, or if you make it to turn 3, then you're usually pretty happy to have this just to get rid of something real easy, while also sending something to your graveyard to enable further effects. I only have one of these though, because you really don't want to see more than one of these, and everything in this deck seems to search for everything else, as you've seen, so yeah, it's usually not difficult to get this card into your hand. Up next, let's take a look at a couple water monster combo pieces. Yeah, there's quite a combo involved in this deck, as we will see later as I go over some gameplay. And these are some important parts of it. The barrier statue of the Torrent here is a level 4, 1000 attack, 1000 defense. But it's a rather nasty piece of work, really. Neither player can special summon monsters except water monsters. So if your opponent is playing a non-water deck, and you get this into play, then they can't play. That's the long and short of it. So yeah, you can do some real damage just by having this thing on the field at all, and there's an easy way to do it, as we will see later. And then we have the Deep Sea Mistral. Again, just like the barrier statue, only running a single copy of this combo piece because it's pretty easy to find. Level 3, 1200 attack, 1500 defense. But you can discard this card and a water monster, so it does enable other effects too, to look at your opponent's hand and banish one card from their hand face up until the end phase. And if this card is special summoned, you can send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard to target a level 4 lore water monster in your graveyard and place it on the top or bottom of your deck. You never do that, don't worry. The important thing is that you're banishing something from their hand. And, well, if you happen to have Deep Sea Minstrel in your opening hand, then you can really get the one-up on your opponent by getting rid of a key piece of disruption that they might have. Otherwise, maybe you can get this into your hand early enough through searching to do the same thing before your opponent gets to react to you. But them having something banished is important, and we will see why a bit later. And next up, we have this pile of various fish monsters. So I've got only a single copy of all of these, because they're all combo pieces in their own way, and they're easy to find or easy to special summon, so having more than one of any of these doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because you really don't want them sitting in your hand if they don't need to be. So we're gonna start with the gluttonous Reptolfin Greethus. I believe I pronounced that correctly. Reptolfin, yes. So this is a level 3, 1000 attack, 1000 defense, and it does a lot of stuff. This is a tuner, that's important, but you can target a fish, sea serpent, or aqua monster in your graveyard with an equal or lower level than the number of cards in your opponent's hand, and special summon it, but it can't activate its effects this turn. And once per turn, if this card is sent to the graveyard as Synchro material, you can make that Synchro monster that used it as material gain 200 attack and defense for each card currently in your opponent's hand. So this card, provided its effects aren't negated for some reason, which we might see, it does also bring back an additional card from your graveyard to further your combos along. Keep that in mind, don't forget it, it is important. We also have the Lifeless Leaf Fish here, level 4, 1500 attack, 1600 defense. When this card is summoned, you can send a fish from your deck to the graveyard. And there is actually a fish that you wouldn't mind having in your graveyard a bit later on here, so that is something that you can do, provided this card's effects aren't negated for some reason. But the even more important thing here is that you can banish this card from your graveyard, target 3 fish monsters in your graveyard, shuffle them all back into the deck, and then draw a card. That is something very easy to do, so you will very often be getting that extra card draw for free, which is nice. The Royal Swamp Eel is a level 4 tuner with 1700 attack, 1200 defense. If this card is used as synchro material, all the other synchro materials must be fish. You might be wondering why I'm using this. It doesn't seem very good. Well, you will see, you will see. And then we have the Citadel Whale, level 7, another level 7. You might be seeing a theme with some of these level 7s. It has 2350 attack, 2150 defense. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can tribute 2 water monsters to special summon it, so you can discard it and special summon it later, or if you send it to the graveyard with lifeless leaf fish, you can still special summon it later, which is nice. It really doesn't matter where this thing is, you can special summon it pretty easily. But you can only use these effects once per turn. If this card is special summoned, you can set a Sea Stealth attack from your deck. That's not going to happen. I don't use that card. This isn't a Sea Stealth control deck. But what is relevant is once per turn, if your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a water monster you control and no other cards, then you can negate that activation and destroy that card. So if you can cheat this thing into play easily, it will protect the rest of your board from one effect, which is nice. And 2350 attack isn't nothing, it's kind of big, so you might just use this thing to attack with as well. And I will also say, I like to have in any given deck of mine at least one card that makes me smile every time I play it. And I've got to say, Citadel Whale and maybe Royal Swamp Eel, but Citadel Whale makes me smile every time I play it. I love this card, it's funny. So yeah, that's why I really wanted to use it, and I'm glad it works. And finally, we've got the big fish, the super ancient deep sea king coelacanth, which is a level 7, 2800 attack, 2200 defense. So this is the big combo piece that enables almost the rest of the deck. So once per turn, let's read what it does here. Once per turn, you can discard 1 card and special summon as many level 4 or lower fish-type monsters as possible from your deck. A monster special summoned by this effect can't declare an attack, and its effects are, unfortunately, negated while on the field. If this card is targeted by a spell, trap, or effect monster's effect, you can tribute another fish-type monster to negate that effect. Okay, but the important thing is, if you can play this thing and discard a card, you will fill your entire field with other fish. That is why I have all those random fish monsters in this deck. And oh boy, that enables all sorts of fish-based shenanigans. So yeah, we will be seeing more about our friend, the Deep Sea King coelacanth, a bit later as I go over some gameplay. And to finish off the monster section of this deck, we've got a few hand traps, starting out with one that's actually a water monster, the Molcharmi Purulia. So this card, it's an aqua. I only run a single copy of it, because this deck doesn't really want to go second, and this is definitely a going second card. But being a water monster, it can be used to fuel other effects, and you're usually pretty happy to see this thing if you're going second for whatever reason. So yeah, I figured one single copy of it is fine, and to tell you the truth, I feel like this is likely to get limited to one eventually anyway, if not banned. So we're just sitting on the single copy. But what it does is if you control no cards, so you're going second, then you can discard this card and apply these effects this turn. Each time your opponent normal or special summons from the hand, then you immediately draw 1 card. Hey, great! And during the end phase, if the number of cards in your hand is more than the number of cards your opponent controls plus 6, you must randomly shuffle cards from your hand into the deck so that the number in your hand equals that number plus 6. So 6 cards is unfortunately the maximum extra that you're allowed to keep, which is, a shame, I guess. That's balance right there. So this is an annoying card, but again, only using the 1 copy because usually you don't really want to be in a position that you need to use it. And then we've got the old Ash Blossoms and Joyous Spring, which I am running 3 copies of because this card is very, very useful in almost any given situation. It is a fire monster, not water, but that's okay. So what you do is when a card or effect is activated that includes any of these effects, you can discard this card to negate that effect. So if they add a card from deck to hand, special summon from the deck, or send a card from the deck to the graveyard, you can discard one of these and negate that effect. So yeah, it covers a lot of your bases, and again, even though it's a fire monster, that is okay, but we will see in a moment why other attributes of monsters might not work so well in this deck. Now, let's move on to the spell cards, starting out with Pot of Avarice. I run a single copy of Pot of Avarice because, as you've seen, we send a lot of monsters to the graveyard, and what this does is you target 5 of those monsters in your graveyard, shuffle them all back into the deck, and draw 2 cards. So this is a great way to refill a bit of your hand after you've done most of your turn, or all of your turn, just to get a couple extra cards. It's nice to have, but I really don't think it's worth running multiple copies of this because the last thing you want is to see 2 of these in your hand at the same time. So yeah, one is just fine. We also have the obligatory Called by the Grave because, well, you gotta, right? You target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it. If you do, until the end of your next turn, its effects are negated, as well as the activated effects and effects on the field of monsters with the same original name. So even though I play this exact deck actually in Master Duel, where this is limited to 2, I know that in the TCG it is limited to 1, which is why I'm only running a single copy, because I want my deck to be nice and legal, unlike all those cheaters on Master Duel. So what this does is if you get hand trapped by your opponent, you can use this to banish that hand trap from their graveyard, and then its effects are negated, and you are free to continue your turn. Otherwise, you can use this in other sneaky ways by banishing other cards to negate other effects, but its most common use is to deal with hand traps. Triple Tactics Talent here, sort of similar end use, really. If your opponent has activated a monster effect during your main phase, maybe you got hand trapped, then you can do one of these things. Draw 2 cards, take control of one monster your opponent controls until the end phase, or look at your opponent's hand to choose 1 card from it, shuffle it into the deck. Now that last effect is real nasty. I think that's the one I actually use most, but sometimes you just need to draw cards, or maybe it's not the very first turn and you can take control of your opponent's boss monster and beat them over the head with it. In any event, this is a versatile and powerful card, but again, you never want to see more than one of these, so that's why I only use the single copy. Actually, hasn't this card been limited now? Maybe it has been. Maybe I was right all along. Now here we've got Lightning Storm, which I run 2 copies of, because sometimes you don't go first, especially in Master Duel, and then you're real happy to see one of these. So if you control no face-up cards, activate one of these effects, you destroy all attack position monsters your opponent controls, or you destroy all their spells and traps. You can only use one of these per turn. So this is just a very powerful board wipe that I will most often use to clear the back row, because a back row full of face-down cards is scary, but sometimes you just use this to also clear a whole bunch of attack position monsters. It's a great card, so I do actually use the 2 copies of it. And speaking of dealing with a scary back row, we have Harpy's Feather Duster, which quite simply destroys all spells and traps your opponent controls. Nothing more to it. It is a very powerful effect, and yeah, I'm often quite happy to see it if I draw it when I'm going second. And to close out the deck, or at least the main deck, we have some trap cards. So this is Abyss Steam, which is the Abyss trap card. A lot of decks like this, a lot of decks don't use this card, but I do because it is marginally useful, and there is a card in the extra deck that actually cares about this card, so that's why I keep it in. Here's what it does. You draw cards equal to the number of different monster types among the monsters you control that are fish, sea serpents, or aquas. Also, until the end of your next turn after this card resolves, you can't special summon from the extra deck except water. Okay, that's again not an issue. If a face-up water monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card to add a mermail from your graveyard or banishment to your hand. Which is also nice, gets you something else to your hand. So if you're real lucky, you can actually just draw 3 cards off of this, which feels real good. Even drawing 2 cards off of this feels real good. So yeah, it certainly has its uses. It's not a bad card, but I only use the single copy of it. And now, Dominus Impulse. So I do actually need to admit something to you. Now, Dominus Impulse, I run 3 copies of this on Master Duel, but I don't have 3 copies of it in paper, because I figured it would be reprinted, and darn it, I was right. So that's why I didn't want to spend a couple $100 to buy 2 more copies of this. So, hang on. How about we just, here. We do this. Let's pretend I have 3 copies of it, okay? So what Dominus Impulse does, why I run this at 3, is if your opponent controls a card, you can activate this from your hand, which is awesome. Activating trap cards from the hand is, it's pretty good. Makes these like hand traps, literal hand traps. And when a card or effect is activated that includes an effect that special summons a monster, you negate that effect. Then if you have a trap in your graveyard, you can destroy that card. And if you activated this card from the hand, this is relevant, then you cannot activate the effects of light, earth, or wind monsters for the rest of this duel. That is a hefty cost that really limits the kinds of decks that can use Dominus Impulse. However, this is the perfect deck to use Dominus Impulse given that everything is water. So if you don't have Dominus Impulse, though, it is easy to just slot in a different hand trap instead, like Effect Veiler or something, because Dominus Impulse is the limiting factor that stops me from using other hand traps. But its effect is so darn powerful, and again, perfect for this water-based deck, that I really think running 3 is a must if you happen to have them. And of course, we have the 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, because it is such a good and all-around useful card that I pretty much always just run this at 3. So what it does is you target a face-up monster your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of the turn. And then if this card was set before activation and is on the field at resolution for the rest of the turn, all other spells and traps in this card's column are negated. But if you control no cards, you can activate this card from your hand. So, sort of like Dominus Impulse here, it doesn't really matter if you're going first or going second. You really like to see these cards because they enable you to interact with your opponent. And in fact, Infinite Impermanence even allows the secondary destruction ability of Dominus Impulse to activate, so they go super well together. And yeah, that's just why I run this card at 3. You are usually pretty thankful to see this card in your hand, no matter what point in the game it is. And now let's move on to the extra deck, starting with the Synchro monsters, like the Deep Sea Prima Donna here, who is a level 7, 1500 attack, 2700 defense. She is in fact a tuner as well, but for the purposes of this deck, that's not really all that necessary. So, what she does is your opponents cannot target a Synchro monster that used this card as material with monster effects, okay. But, important thing here, because this is kind of a combo piece, you can target one of your opponent's banished cards. Then you add to your hand or special summon a level 4 or lower water monster from your deck, and if you do, you add that target to your opponent's hand. So if they have something banished, you give it back to them and you get to special summon something, which is real handy. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a banished card and shuffle it into the deck. The important thing is that this lets you special summon something, and we will be seeing what that is a bit later. We also have the White Aura Monoceros here, another level 7, 2500 attack, 1500 defense. When this card is Synchro summoned, you can target a fish monster in your graveyard and special summon it, but it can't attack this turn. You can only use this effect once per turn. If this card you control is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to your graveyard, banish another water monster from your graveyard to special summon this card again, and then it is treated as a tuner. But the important thing is that, again, this lets you special summon something else, which allows your plays to continue. A very useful card in that regard. The Adamancipator Risen Dragite is a card you might recognize from my Adamancipator deck, but it is water and therefore very, very useful in this deck. So during your main phase you can excavate. Okay, that's not happening, there are no other rocks in this deck. The important thing is that if your opponent, there it is, activates a spell or trap, card or effect while a water monster is in your graveyard, quick effect, you can negate that activation, destroy that card. So this is, for one thing, it has 3000 attack, which is rather powerful, but this is just another great way to disrupt your opponent if you can get this into play, and it is rather easy, almost trivial, I would say, to get it into play. So yeah, that is why I use it in this deck. It is a very, very good card. And being able to negate spells and traps not only disrupts your opponent's turn, but when it gets back to your turn, it will protect your own board as well. And then we have the Ice Jade Gymir Egerine, which is a level 10 Synchro. Again, water, 3000 attack, 1500 defense. This is a rather powerful attacker. So what it does is, quick effect, activate this effect, face-up monsters you control can't be destroyed or banished by your opponent's card effects this turn, which is a great way to protect your stuff, I must say. Then, if you activated this effect in response to your opponent's card or effect activation, and your opponent has a card with that name on their field or graveyard, you can banish those cards. So it does sort of disrupt what your opponent is doing sometimes. And if a card is banished by your opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. So it does even come back afterward if your opponent gets rid of it somehow. I don't often use this card, but sometimes it really is the best option, and at 3000 attack, it is a great way to just attack to get some finishing damage in there. And here we have the Excise Monsters, which is another pretty sizable bit of the extra deck. Number 4 Stealth Kraken is a rank 4, 1900 attack, 1500 defense. All face-up monsters on the field become water, which is cool. Once per turn during the main phase, quick effect, you can destroy a water monster your opponent controls. And if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the attack it had on the field. And remember, this makes everything water, so that's some cool removal there. But hang on, if this Excise summoned card is destroyed, then you can special summon a Stealth Kraken spawn from your extra deck up to the number of materials this card had. Oh, so yes, if this had multiple materials, you could just summon a bunch of those spawns. Then you attach one water monster from your graveyard to each of those special summoned monsters as material. Yes. So what is Stealth Kraken spawn? Well, it is this, and I only use the one copy because I don't want my extra deck to be full of these things. It's another rank 4, 1900 attack, 1500 defense. Once per turn, during the main phase quick effect, destroy a water monster your opponent controls. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a number Excise monster, which might just be like number 4, Stealth Kraken, is destroyed, then you can special summon other Stealth Kraken monsters from your graveyard up to the number of materials this card had, then attach up to 1 water monster from your graveyard to each of those special summoned monsters as material. So, you can kind of see the loop that these create, right? You play the Stealth Kraken, if it dies, you get the spawn, if it dies, you get the Stealth Kraken back, and it just creates a very annoying set of things that your opponent needs to deal with. I don't use them very much because I'm not often in a position to use rank 4s, but again, sometimes it is just the best thing that you can do at the time, and it is certainly annoying. Number 101, Silent Honor Arc, is another rank 4 with 2100 attack, 1000 defense, and oh, there we go, yes, let's get the ghost foil in there. You can detach 2 materials from this card, target a special summoned monster your opponent controls in face-up attack position, and attach it to this card as material. You can only use this effect once per turn. If this face-up card on the field would be destroyed by battle or card effect, detach a material from it instead. So, this is a kind of useful way to just gobble up one of your opponent's monsters if you have no better way of dealing with it. That's really the only reason I have it in here, and because it's a ghost rare, and ghost rares are cool. Now into the bigger stuff. The Abyss Trite, the Atlantean Spirit, is a rank 7. To go with all those level 7s that we've been seeing, 2100 attack, 2800 defense. Water monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense for each material attached to this card. Can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If this card is Excise summoned, target a level 7 or lower fish, sea serpent, or aqua monster in your graveyard and special summon it. You can detach material from this card to set an Abyss Trap from your deck, and that is why I have the 1 Abyss Trap in this deck, solely so that I can use it if I ever play this card. But it's also a great way to get some tricky-to-summon fish, sea serpents, or aquas from your graveyard back into play. That's the main reason I have this here, sort of as a emergency button to get those things back if I haven't used them yet. And here we have the Mermail Abyss Gaios. This is a very useful one that you will often be using. 2800 attack, 1600 defense, rank 7 again. While this face-up card has Excise material, level 5 or higher monsters cannot attack. And once per turn during either player's turn, detach 1 material from this card, negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls that have less attack than this card until the end of the turn, and 2800 is quite a bit of attack. So this is an incredible card to play on your turn, pass to your opponent, and then watch as they kind of can't do a whole lot of anything. It is very, very... it feels good to see your opponent play an attack-heavy deck into this, only to find out when they go to the battle phase that they can't actually attack, and all they can do is pass to the end phase. Yes, it is rather satisfying to see that, especially certain fire dragon-type monsters, which will go unnamed. And to finish off the Excise section, we have Poseidra Abyss, the Atlantean Dragon Lord. 3000 attack. Again, this is rank 7, but that's not really how you play this thing. Once per turn, you can Excise summon this card by using an Atlantean or Mermail Excise monster you control and transfer its materials to this card. So it is actually rather easy to play. It doesn't need the 3 level 7s that it says. Once per turn, detach 2 materials from this card, then send a water monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard to return up to 3 cards your opponent controls to the hand. If this Excise summoned card is sent to the graveyard, discard a card to special summon 3 level 3 or lower fish, sea serpents, or aquas from your hand and or graveyard. So this card does a lot of things, but mostly what you use it for is on turn 3, when you've already had your Abyss Gaios in play, to throw this thing down into play, return a bunch of stuff your opponent has to their hand, maybe send something to your own graveyard so that you can start comboing off again, and then put that 3000 attack to good use. It is a very, very powerful card and an excellent finisher. Which brings us now to the Link monsters, and there are a few, starting with Me Starboy here. A Link 2, it needs 2 water monsters, 1400 attack. All of your water monsters gain 500 attack and defense, and all fire monsters lose 400 attack and defense. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target a water monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. So I really like cards with these effects. There's one for every attribute. I use them often because they're very easy to play, and sometimes you would be surprised how much of an impact giving everything an additional 500 attack has. It does really let you power through certain boards. Abyss Keeper is a Link 2, a fish monster. It can't be used as Link material the turn it is Link summoned, but if it is Link summoned, you can special summon a fish monster from your hand to a zone this card points to. And you can target another fish monster you control and one card your opponent controls and banish those cards. So it is removal, but mostly it's just here so that you can get some difficult-to-play fish out of your hand a bit more easily, like maybe the Ancient King Coelacanth, which you normally don't want to normal summon. So yeah, that's really what Abyss Keeper is all about. The Marincess Coral Anemone here is another combo piece, actually. You can target a water monster with 1500 or less attack in your graveyard, special summon it to your zone this card points to, and then it again locks you into water monster. But if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, target a Marincess in your graveyard. Okay, this is the only Marincess that I use, so the important thing is that it special summons something from your graveyard, which will immediately, normally, be used to go up to Link 3, which is this card right here, the Mermail King Neptibus, so I guess he is no longer the prince. This is a Link 3 with 2400 attack. What it does, though, is your opponents cannot target water monsters this card points to with card effects, and you can only use each of these effects once per turn. If a water monster is sent to the graveyard to activate a card or effect, you can take an Abyss Equip spell. Okay, that is irrelevant. There are none of those in this deck. If this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can add an Atlantean or Mermail monster from your deck to your hand. Hey, there you go, that might be useful. But mostly, these 3 downward-pointing arrows are there so that Neptibus here can protect your important cards that are making your opponent's life miserable. And to finish things off, we have the World Sea Dragon Zealantis, a Link 4. 2500 attack. Now you can only control one of these, I guess. You can only use each of these effects once per turn. During your main phase, you can banish all monsters on the field, and then special summon as many of those monsters as possible that were banished by this effect to their owner's fields face up or in face down defense position. And during the battle phase quick effect, you can destroy cards on the field up to the number of co-linked monsters on the field. Alright, so mostly this is just here, if you can get it into play, to bounce everything that's already in play and make things a bit easier on yourself because all of your opponent's stuff is face down and therefore kind of useless. I have never actually used this card, but I imagine in a pinch it would be quite useful, and it's really cool, and the rule of cool counts for a lot sometimes, so that's why I have it here in the extra deck. And just a few quick honorable mentions before I get into the gameplay. I won't go into much detail with these. There are other Atlantean cards, like the Marksman and the Heavy Infantry, that do things when you discard them, like they destroy set cards, or destroy face-up cards, or whatever. But because this deck really wants to go first, your opponent typically isn't going to have things for these to destroy, so that's why I don't use them. But if you're trying to build a going second version of this deck, then by all means you might find these things useful. Butterfly Fish is a weird card that special summons itself when you discard it, so it's useful, it's not bad, it is a fish, so it's easy to play. I've never needed it, and I found that I never really searched for it when I could. It's level 3, so you could use it to play different Synchro monsters than I do, so it's not a bad card, it's just one that I personally don't use. Same with Mermail Abyssturge here. It's a lot like the Abyss Spike, except this one brings things back from the graveyard instead of adding them from deck to hand. So normally things in my graveyard I'm content to keep there, or I have other ways of bringing them back, so I never bothered actually playing this card when I did have it. But it's an option, you could certainly use it, I don't think it's useless. Okay, so let's get into the gameplay portion of this video. Now, before I get started, I would just like to make very clear that what I am about to demonstrate here is the very basemost case of what you might be trying to do. It is, well, quite possible and maybe even likely that you'll be able to do more than what I'm about to show you, depending on what you have in your opening hand. But this is just going to be the simplest one-card combo that you can try to accomplish. So let's take a look. Let's get started with Neptibus the Atlantean Prince. So once we normal summon him, we will be able to use his effect and send Atlantean Dragoons directly from the deck to the graveyard in order to add Abyssrine the Atlantean Spirit to our hand. But sending Atlantean Dragoons to the graveyard to activate a Water Monster's effect enables us to add another Sea Serpent to our hand, and we are going to choose the Deep Sea Minstrel. So already, we know that we have these two cards in our hand, in addition to whatever else might have been there. So we are going to use Deep Sea Minstrel's effect right away. Now, we don't want to discard Abyssrine, of course, so I guess this isn't technically a true one-card combo. You do need one other water monster in your opening hand, but hopefully you have that. There is a slight possibility that that will be the case. So by doing that, you can look at your opponent's hand, you can banish one card, and you might have a bit of an idea of what they're hoping to do in their game. But the important thing is they have one card banished, and that's something that we'll need to keep in mind for later. So, now that we have Abyssrine, we can use her effect and tribute another Atlantean. Well, we might have one in our hand, just like with Deep Sea Minstrel, we might have something else useful in our hand to discard and get other effects to go off, other special summons or other searches, but we are just going with the very, very basic case here, and we're going to assume we don't have any of that. So we're going to discard Abyssrine, we are going to tribute our Neptibus, and we are going to special summon the super ancient Deep Sea King Coelacanth directly from the deck. Of course, tributing Neptibus allows us to special summon the Atlantean Dragoons, so we still get a bit of extra value just by doing that. Yeah, this deck just keeps on doing stuff. Now, Atlantean Dragoons, if we had other cards in play right now, we might be able to link summon out into, like, our Marincess Coral Anemone or something that will, again, be useful later, but we are going to assume we've got none of that. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. It's something that could happen, but we are going to assume that it is not. So we're also going to use the Coelacanth's ability, and we are going to special summon a whole bunch of fish directly into play. So now our field looks a little something like this. We've got a lot of stuff to work with. And if we didn't have Atlantean Dragoons because we link summoned something with it, then we'd just play another fish, and we would be in the exact same situation here. But again, for the intents of this demonstration, we still have Atlantean Dragoons. So, what are we going to synchro summon with all this? Well, the first thing we want to do is get rid of this Royal Swamp Eel, because it's a bit of a pain. And we are going to use 8 levels worth of monsters to synchro summon out our Adamancipator Risen Dragite. And then we can use the other 7 levels worth of monsters to link summon out the Deep Sea Prima Donna. So now our field looks a little something like this, and remember, we know that the opponent has something banished, which means we can use Deep Sea Prima Donna's effect to special summon something directly from the deck, and that will be the barrier statue of the Torrent. And we're giving the opponent their card back, which they would have gotten back at the end of turn anyway. So, now we've got a level 7 that's used its effect, and we have a level 7 that's used its effect, so we can overlay the 2 of those to Excise summon out Mermail Abyss Gaios. Let's just move everything into frame. There we go. So now we have a negation effect here, we've stopped the opponent from special summoning, and we've stopped the opponent from attacking with another negation effect. So we're looking pretty good. We've got a pretty solid board here, and like I said earlier, it is not only possible, but it is quite likely that you've got more than this. You might even have the Mermail King Neptibus right here, which will protect the rest of your board from your opponent's pesky effects. So this is quite a common board to end on, and you'll be seeing it a lot. But again, we're just gonna assume that this is what we've done, and it's pretty good, just as it is. And remember, if you have enough fish in your graveyard, you can also use the Lifeless Leaf Fish to draw yourself an additional card, which is even better. So when it rolls back around to your turn, from this point, you can overlay your Primordia, Poseidra rather, Abyss, directly onto your Mermail Abyss Gaios so that you're allowed to attack again, and you can use it to bounce your opponent's cards and to start comboing again and play all sorts of stuff, and yeah, you're looking rather good at that point. Now, aside from that main combo, there was one other thing that I wanted to make note of, and that is the proper use of the White Aura Monoceros here. So as you will recall, we used the Gluttonous Repdolphin Greethus, and we used a level 4 to synchro summon out the Deep Sea Prima Donna. But what if I told you there was a way to get even more value from that? You see, if you use these 2 cards to synchro summon out our White Aura Monoceros instead, you can immediately use it to bring the Gluttonous Repdolphin back into play. And, assuming the opponent still has 4 cards in their hand, because remember, you banished 1, you can then use the Gluttonous Repdolphin to bring back the level 4 that you just used to special summon the Monoceros. So, in a way, you are getting this White Aura Monoceros completely for free. Because you started with these 2 cards, and now, well, you've got them again, in addition to a White Aura Monoceros. And then from here, you can use the 2 of them to synchro summon out your Deep Sea Prima Donna and continue the combo as normal. But it just goes to show that this is a card that you could have in play that is kind of just sitting there doing nothing, so you could keep using this as material for your link summons, or you might even use it as an additional level 7 if you've got the rank 7 rather Excise monsters that you want to play. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do with it, and you're really losing nothing for having this in play. Or if you're not in a position to use the Deep Sea Prima Donna, or if your opponent doesn't have 4 cards in their hand anymore, you could always just use this non-tuner with this tuner that you just brought back from the graveyard in order to Synchro summon out your giant Ice Jade monster, which again is a pretty good card to have in play to protect the rest of your board. So the White Aura Monoceros, as it turns out, is a very versatile card that has some tricky uses, but once you learn the sort of ins and outs of what you can do with it, it is very useful. And there you have it. That has been my 2025 Atlantean Mermail Fish Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck. So this is usually the part of the deck profile where I say something along the lines of, oh, this deck isn't very good, and maybe you should just play it in more casual, not hyper-competitive settings, but this deck is actually pretty legit. I would even go so far as to say this is the second most powerful Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck I've ever built. It probably doesn't surpass my Earth Machine deck, not quite, but there's really a lot going for it, and you've always got some sort of plays to make. It can go first, it can go second, it's really got a lot, and it's even got Royal Swamp Eel, and I've gotta say that really puts it over the top. But yes, it's a really fun deck, it's a rather powerful deck, and I do encourage you to give it a try, or try another deck similar to it. It's a whole lot of fun. But that will bring me to the end of this deck profile video, and I do hope that you enjoyed it. And if you did, then please leave a like, a comment, subscribe, and I hope you'll join me again next time for whatever deck I might be profiling next. Till then, ta-ta. Oh, good heavens, look! We got a collector's rare. Excuse me a moment. Oh, hello! I like it, I do. I was worried for a second that this box was going to be suboptimal. Oh, goodness, that is a pull right there. Let's find out. Oh boy.